You know what makes the Billy Bat scene in Goodfellas so unforgettable? It is not just the insult. It is not just the violence. It is not even the fact that this one drunken exchange ends up setting Tommy's death in motion. What really makes the whole thing stick in your mind is one simple question that starts bothering you the second you watch it closely. Why didn't Billy Bats leave? Seriously. Why did he stay? Because once Tommy explodes, once the tension is out in the open, once he is screaming and fighting and telling Henry to keep Billy there, most normal people would read the room and get the hell out. At the very least, they would keep some backup close. They would leave with their friends, they would change locations, they would decide that maybe tonight is not the night to keep drinking surrounded by guys who are clearly loyal to a man they just humiliated. But Billy does not do that. He stays. And that is what makes the whole thing so fascinating. Because from the audience's point of view, Billy almost looks like he walks into his own murder. Not because he deserves it, and not because he knows exactly what is coming, but because he completely misreads the danger in front of him. He thinks he is still protected by the old rules. He thinks status is enough. He thinks Tommy is still just some loud little psycho with a big mouth and not somebody crazy enough to cross a line that should never be crossed. And that right there is the key to the whole scene. Because Billy Bats does not run for one reason. He does not think he has to. Now on the surface, this is a story about pride and disrespect. Billy gets out of prison after 6 years, walks into the party, sees Tommy, and starts twisting the knife with those old stories about shoe shining. Tommy being Tommy cannot handle it. Billy keeps pushing. Tommy loses his mind. Everybody in the room knows they are watching something dangerous. But underneath that, this scene is really about rank. It is about who can insult who is protected, who is not, who gets to laugh, and who is expected to sit there and take it. That is why Billy stays. Because in his mind, he is the last person in the room who needs to be afraid. And if you want to understand why he makes that mistake, you have to understand who Billy Bats is in that world. Billy is not some random guy at the bar. He is a made man. That means everything. In the Mafia, being made is not just a title. It is not just respect. It is legal protection inside an illegal universe. It is status raised to the level of armor. When Henry explains in the movie what it means to be made, he is not exaggerating. It means you belong to a family. It means you are inside the structure. It means nobody below that level is supposed to touch you. Not really. Not unless permission comes from above. And Tommy is not made. That is the crucial difference. Tommy may be feared. Tommy may be violent. Tommy may have friends, money, and a reputation. But next to Billy Bats, Tommy is still beneath him in the official order of things. Billy knows that. Billy feels that. Billy lives inside that certainty. So when Tommy starts getting mad, Billy does not read it as true danger. He reads it as theater. He reads it as the tantrum of a guy who is trying to act bigger than he is. That is why he keeps pushing. That is why the shine box line lands the way it does. It is not just an insult. It is a reminder of hierarchy. Billy is saying, in effect, I remember who you really are. I remember you before the suits, before the attitude, before the swagger. I knew you when you were a kid. I knew you when you shined shoes. And I can still talk to you like that now. For Tommy, that is unbearable. For Billy, it is perfectly safe. And that is the tragedy of the whole thing. Billy is operating according to the rules of the world he knows. Tommy is operating according to the rage inside his chest. Those are not the same system. And when those two things collide, the rules lose. Now, another part of this is simple male pride, the kind that gets people killed in mob stories all the time. Even if Billy had a moment where he wondered whether Tommy might come back, he still could not just get up and walk out. Not easily, not in front of everybody, not after a a smaller, non-made guy loses his mind at him. And if Billy leaves too quickly, it looks like fear. It looks like Tommy got to him. It looks like the made man got rattled by the loudmouth. That matters in that world. Mob culture runs on performance as much as power. You do not just have to be protected. You have to look protected. You cannot appear weak. You cannot let people think some little maniac with a temper made you leave your own party. So even if Billy wanted to go home immediately, part of him would still feel obligated to stay, to keep drinking, to keep talking, to show the room that Tommy's outburst meant nothing. That is another reason he does not run. Not because he is stupid, exactly. Because he is trapped by the image he has to maintain, and that idea becomes even more interesting when you remember that Billy has just come home from prison. He has been gone for 6 years. 6 years is a long time in any world, but in the mob, it might as well be a different century. Crews change, relationships change, people get richer, crazier, more reckless. The old neighborhood rules may still exist in theory, but the personalities inside them have evolved. Billy comes back expecting the old balance to still be there. He thinks he knows Tommy. He thinks Tommy is still the same hot little punk from years ago. What he does not realize is that Tommy has become something much worse, because Tommy is not just immature. He is not just touchy. He is not just aggressive in a normal gangster way. Tommy is unhinged. He is one of those men whose ego is fused with violence so completely that humiliation and murder now live right next to each other inside him. He does not process insults like other people. He does not cool off like other people. Once you hit that nerve, once you make him feel small in front of the room, the whole rest of the night becomes dangerous. Billy does not know that, or at least he does not understand how far it has gone. And that is where the movie version and the real life version actually start to separate in a way that explains a lot. In the film, the scene is compressed for dramatic effect. Tommy gets insulted, storms out, comes back later that same night, and Billy is still there with fewer people around. That makes the question feel sharper. Why on earth would Billy still be sitting there? Inside the movie, the answer is really the one we have already been building toward. He stays because he thinks he is untouchable. He stays because leaving makes him look weak. He stays because he believes the hierarchy will protect him. And he stays because he underestimates Tommy completely. That is the movie answer. But the real life answer is even more revealing, because in real life, Billy Batts was not killed that same night. He was killed about 2 weeks later. That changes the entire psychology of the situation. Suddenly, Billy does not look like a complete fool sitting in the bar waiting for death. Instead, what happened is much more human and much more believable. A fight broke out, bad words were exchanged. Pride got bruised. Then time passed, days passed, nearly 2 weeks passed. And in that gap, Billy probably started treating it like what mob guys often treat these things as: one more ugly incident in a world full of ugly incidents. Maybe he assumed it was over. Maybe he thought the shouting had been the release. Maybe he figured Tommy had calmed down. Maybe he even forgot how serious it had felt in the moment. That is much easier to believe. It also makes Tommy look colder and in some ways scarier. In the movie, he seems to snap and return. In real life, if the accounts are right, he waited. He carried the insult. He let it sit. Then he ambushed Billy later at a different place, with less heat, less noise, and far less chance of interference. That is not just rage. That is revenge with patience. And Billy by then would have had even less reason to expect immediate danger. The outburst was old news, the party was over, the moment had passed. Except it had not passed for Tommy. That is one of the most important things about Tommy as a character. With him, humiliation does not expire, it just ferments. Now, there is another piece people always wonder about, and that is Billy's protection. Where were his people? Who was the guy at the party he greeted early on? Why is Billy later so exposed? That is a great question, because it gets at how false security works in mob life. A made man does not need muscle every second of the night if he truly believes the title itself is enough protection. If Billy believes nobody would dare touch him without permission, then why would he keep bodyguards glued to him over one ugly exchange with Tommy? From his point of view, that would be overreacting. It would almost be admitting that Tommy was a real threat, and again, that itself would feel humiliating. So yes, maybe the guy named Vito leaves because he gets bored, maybe other friends go home, maybe people assume the danger has passed, maybe Billy himself waves them off because he does not want to look nervous. All of that is plausible. What matters is that Billy does not think he is standing in the middle of enemy territory. He thinks he is among people who understand the same rules he does. He thinks that even if Tommy is a lunatic, Jimmy and Henry and everybody else still know what killing a made man means. He assumes somebody will keep Tommy in line because that is what the structure is supposed to do. But what Billy fails to understand is that he is not just dealing with Tommy, he is also dealing with Jimmy. And Jimmy changes the whole equation, because Jimmy has business reasons not to love Billy coming home. Billy wants control back over operations. Jimmy has been running while he was away. Billy has done his time, and now he wants his peace again. He has mouths to feed, as he says in the film. And that line is doing a lot of work. It tells you there is real money and real tension underneath the personal insult. Billy coming back is not just socially awkward. It threatens income, it changes power arrangements, it disrupts business. So once Tommy explodes, Jimmy is not necessarily trying to stop a disaster out of moral wisdom. He may also be seeing opportunity. If Billy disappears, one difficult, protected, and inconvenient problem disappears with him. That means Billy's fatal miscalculation is even bigger than he realizes. He is not just misreading Tommy's rage, he is misreading the room's incentives. He thinks the structure will protect him, but the people in that room may have reasons not to be so eager about that protection. That is a deadly mistake. And it tells you something important about Goodfellas as a whole. The Mafia's rules are real, but they are never as solid as people pretend. They are constantly bending around money, resentment, ambition, convenience, and fear. Billy believes in the rules enough to stay. Tommy is too crazy to care about them. Jimmy is too pragmatic to let them get in the way of profit. That combination is fatal. There is also the simple factor of alcohol and mood. By many accounts, Billy was drunk, or at least drinking heavily. That matters. Alcohol makes people slower, louder, more confident, less alert. It makes old grudges feel funny until they are not funny anymore. It makes men believe they have control over situations that are already sliding away from them. A sober Billy might still have stayed, but a drinking Billy who is older, higher ranking, newly home from prison, and enjoying the attention of a welcome back celebration, that man is even less likely to imagine that the little guy he just embarrassed is actually going to destroy his life over it. And that really is the answer in full. Why didn't Billy Batts run? Because in his mind there was nothing to run from. He was older than Tommy, higher in rank than Tommy, protected in a way Tommy was not. He had every reason, based on the official logic of that world, to believe the danger was performative and not real. Leaving would have looked weak. Staying looked natural. Staying looked powerful. Staying looked correct. What Billy did not understand was that the world around him had shifted. He was using the old map in a room where the walls had already moved. Tommy was not a normal soldier with normal limits. Jimmy was not a neutral bystander. The structure was not as reliable as Billy assumed. And the insult that seemed like a bit of nasty fun to him landed on the one nerve Tommy would never let go. That is why the scene is so effective. It is not just about violence, it is about confidence turning into vulnerability without the victim even realizing it. Billy is not afraid because he thinks rank is stronger than madness. He thinks titles beat ego. He thinks the room still belongs to the old order. But Goodfellas is a movie full of people discovering that the old order does not save you when the wrong man stops caring. And in a way, Billy Batts becomes the perfect example of that. He does everything a man of his position would be expected to do. He stays, he does not look afraid, he does not overreact. He treats Tommy like a smaller man, making a bigger scene than he can afford. Under normal mob logic, that should have been enough. But Tommy is not normal mob logic. He is chaos wearing a suit, and once Billy fails to understand that, his fate is already moving toward him, whether it happens that same night in the movie or 2 weeks later in real life. So, no, Billy did not run, not because he was fearless in some heroic sense, not because he welcomed death, and not because he was too stupid to see danger at all. He stayed because his status told him he could. He stayed because his pride told him he had to. He stayed because he thought the rules still meant something. And in Goodfellas, one of the darkest lessons is that the rules only protect you right up until the moment somebody more reckless than the rules decides they do not. Billy Batts learned that too late. And Tommy DeVito, in a different way, learned it later himself.